Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Melissa Carter. Melissa Carter has been a morning show radio host for over 20 years and is a featured columnist for Georgia Voice in Atlanta. Melissa is the podcast host of She Persisted and the author of the column That's What She Said. Welcome to the podcast, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
I am
I try.
great.
I try to get creative with the titles of the things that I do. So yes, that's what she said. The Georgia Voice is an LGBT paper, so it's a column geared toward the gay community. So I thought that was a hilarious title. So.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's funny. Okay, well, I know a lot of people already know you because you're on the radio every morning. But for the people who don't, can you tell us about you, where you grew up, and how you started out?
Well, first of all, you're kind to think that anybody would know who I am. So that's very sweet. But yes, I grew up in a town called Columbia, Tennessee. So if you've ever been to Nashville to visit or live in Nashville, the Franklin area is very popular. Well, just south of Franklin is a town called Columbia. And that's where I grew up. And I think I got started by, and I told the doc this, that I played with my brother's tape recorder. So back in the 70s is when the cassette tape where you could record and have a microphone came out, and he bought that because he's a big tech geek. And so I played on that and pretended to be the DJs that I heard in Nashville. And that's kind of how I got my start. So I went to college to actually be in television news. So television was my focus in college, but I never worked a day in television. But I went to the University of Tennessee with a broadcasting degree. And then I moved to Atlanta to work at Turner at the time when Ted Turner had owned the business, and he was there in the office, and I was a telemarketer. So it wasn't very glamorous, but I thought working at Turner Broadcasting was. Mm-hmm. And then slowly but surely I got to know people and got my first job. If you're in Atlanta and you're familiar with 99X, it was a very popular station in the 90s. And I worked at that morning show. And then I worked on the Burt Show, which I'm probably most famous for, if you want to use the word famous. And then after that, I hosted a morning show on B98.5. And I've done afternoon radio. And now I currently help financial advisors be on the radio. So I'm more of a consultant working sometimes I host the shows with them. So I've hosted shows in Sacramento, California, and in in Massachusetts, and so I'm across the country on these stations. But it's mainly I'm there to kind of lift up the people who want to be on the radio and want to be hosts and teach them how to do it. So that's currently what I do besides hosting my own podcast and writing. And so I enjoy creativity, and I think that maybe as the Pisces, that's what I'm destined to do, is just something creative. And so that's usually what I end up doing. I also just started a internet show with Araya McGarry and Mark Hayes, who are well known in Atlanta, and we do a show called Smart Talk. And so it's another venture where we just kind of discuss current events, but we have a positive spin on it. So there's a happy ending to the conversation. So we thought that's very important in this climate where everybody seems to be so fractured, that we wanted to do that. So I tend to, if somebody says, hey, you want to do a show? Hey, you want to try this? Hey, you want to write this? I'm like, sure, and try not to overwhelm myself. And at the same time, I am a single mom of a 6-year-old. I was about to say 5. He just turned 6. And so, just life work balance is what I'm also doing during this pandemic. So, but it's all good. I can't complain.
Yeah. And actually, I was about to ask you about that, about family and balance, because, so many times women look at other women and see how successful they are, and they think, how did they do it? So how do you do it with a 6-year-old?
Well, it's not, I think the one thing, the blessing of women is, I think that we look at big pictures, right? And in order to look at big pictures, we look at other people. And then the bad downside to that is when we look at other people, we tend to, internally compare ourselves to those other people. And it's not easy. I mean, I think that it's, I certainly wonder if I'm still relevant in my profession, and then if I'm a good, all right. So it's hard. I mean, I think that, I certainly have self-doubt. I certainly wonder if I'm still relevant in my career, if I'm a good mom. But I think that the questions are okay to ask because you're trying to better yourself. So you're trying to evolve. So I think it's natural for us to think those things. The problem comes when we continue with that thinking, when we are like, oh, I'm not a good mom. Oh, I'm too old for people to care about, because in media, I mean, as you well know, media, at least in the US, tends to gear toward youth, right? The younger, the better. And when you're older, you're irrelevant. And now that I'm in my 50s, it's like, okay, well, do people still care? And, but you can't focus on that. You can't continue with that. I think that, one good thing about me being a mom that helps me through this is trying to kind of live through his lens. Mm-hmm. So my son is currently doing remote learning in kindergarten, and I pay attention. Like, I pay attention to the lessons and how, we were taught when we were that little that you can do anything. Your dreams are very important. You have your own voice and difference is okay. And somehow, I don't know how we get away from that as adults, where we think, oh, we have to be like everybody else. Where in kindergarten, we learned we didn't have to. And so I really pay attention to what he's learning. And so it's the constant focus on the good, not the bad. That's what I tell my son, is like, focus on what you have, not what you don't have. And it's harder, it's easier said than done. But if you wonder how I get through it, it's okay, find what you're complaining about the most. And then there's a reason for that. There's a reason you're complaining about it. I just had this conversation with a friend last night who lives in LA, and she's overwhelmed. And there was one thing that just really, her schedule, she was bad at scheduling. And so work was overwhelming. She's the mother of like a 3-year-old, and she's like, I'm overwhelmed. But then it's like, and she complains about her schedule. And it's like, well, that's the fix. Like, if you need to fix something, look at what you're complaining about the most and adjust it. And then that might make things better. So it's just, to answer, it's not a simple answer to that question, but don't think that people who show their best side in public don't have a downside at home. And I certainly have nights where I cry and days where I'm overwhelmed and times that I feel depressed. And, but it's just, you don't live in it. You let it happen, and then you let the phase ease out, and you distract yourself with something that's fun. And I don't watch the news very often, and I don't watch, things that are depressing too much. And I just pay attention to what I absorb as entertainment for myself, and know that really does affect who I am. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
yeah, it does. And you went in a lot of great directions. So thanks for that. And, I was thinking,
I think that's the problem is I went in a lot of directions. I'm sorry about that, but
yeah, that's but the thing is, when you're in the public eye doing a podcast or on a radio show or on television, regardless of what's going on, and this could be you standing in front of a stage where you have to sell, no matter what's going on, you get on and you put your stage face on. And what people don't understand is that that's the stage face. That doesn't mean that there's not hell breaking loose at home.
Exactly. Well, and the stage face is not inauthentic. It's just a part of you, right? So,
right.
And you'll find that if you are somebody that lives in the public on any level, like you said, whether you're doing sales, whether you're doing media, you're a teacher, whatever it is, that you do your job best when you do have that face on, because people need to see confidence in front of them. So you're a leader. So you have to be confident. But I think to be an effective leader is to also make sure that people feel good about themselves. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that they don't let people know that there is a downside, that this is hard, that sometimes you don't feel like being a mom, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you saying that. You don't feel like being, doing your job. You don't feel like even being a human half the time. But it's okay as long as you let that come and then just let it go. Just it's normal and it's natural. Holding on to it is not.
Exactly. And I don't know why I got this flashback, but I did as you were talking. So I'm an optometrist, and I was really lucky that I could bring my children to work with me, because I was really adamant about nursing them up until about 6 months, all of them, my son, almost a year. And so I would take them to work with a nanny, And at that time, this was early, like you said, in the early 90s or whatever. So at that time, we weren't so casual. So I was wearing a suit with hose and pumps to work,
Yep.
with like usually navy blue jacket, something like that. And I remember then it was time for the baby to eat. I would go in the back room, I would feed the baby, and I would come back out and see patients. And when the nanny needed me again, I'd leave in between patients and I'd go and I would feed the baby. And I cannot tell you the number of days I didn't know it until the end of the day. I'd take my clothes off at night and there was milk running down the back of my navy blue jacket, like, oh my gosh, I went all day with this.
Nobody told you. I can't believe nobody said anything.
I don't know. Sometimes someone would, but a lot of times they didn't.
But see that, and that shows that somebody who is walking in to get their eyes checked or get a new pair of glasses, they're not thinking at all about the efforts you made, not only to be a good professional, but also to be a good mom. And, and it doesn't have to, because a lot of us who are mothers, I think there is a club there of people who understand that there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes that nobody sees, but you don't have to have children, obviously, to have that same experience. I think everybody, like, to me, I remember, and I'm trying to think of where I was, but I was at some office, and I remember thinking, of how much it took me to get to the office on time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, to get up, to take a shower. And then when I was a mother, to get my son ready before I got to the office. And you just look around your colleagues and you just think about that. Think that every single person in that room has had a hectic morning on some level, whether it is, somebody who slept in and just immediately jumped in their pants and got in the car and got, that's hectic.
Mm-hmm.
Or the person who had to get up at 3 a.m. because they wanted to exercise, eat breakfast, fix, the family, whatever, help the animals, do whatever. So I think once you realize that life is complex and it's not one dimensional for anybody, I think it helps. It goes back to what you said about how when people look at other people and think, how do they do that? Well, you just do it. I have a sticker on my refrigerator that I bought. Like, it's just this little square sticker that I have next to the ice machine. And it says, it's hard, do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because for some, and I got it specifically for this pandemic, because you can complain all you want about everything, but your energy is so wasted in doing that. Think about a problem being an opportunity for something else. Like, again, what are you complaining about? Well, focus on that. Think about it. How do you adjust it? What is it, like, for instance, for me, like, I hear a lot of parents, and I know I'm focusing on parents. It doesn't have to be this. It's just my experience, but I hear a lot of parents and, having to be home and do remote learning. And I find it such a joy to be able to see my son and be with my son. So the pandemic has offered me the opportunity to spend more time with my child. And that's what I focus on. Even if it's hard, overwhelmed, like just yesterday, I was, up at 6:37 and was in bed at 10 and had been doing, it was nonstop the whole time because I was in mom mode the majority of that time. And I thought, what, I could complain about this. I could easily call a friend and we could just have a session where but I'm not, because it's such a privilege to be in this position. So that it's attitude. I mean, that's something that we've heard so often. My mother used to talk about the power of positivity, and it's, like I said, it seems cliche, but it's really the truth. The way you approach things is how happy you are.
I love that last thing you said. How you approach things is how happy you are.
Right.
You're as happy as you choose to be.
Exactly. And choice.
The research
it
over and
is
over.
a choice. Yes, exactly. And what you said, it is a choice. And honestly, when I was a kid, I had health issues as a child, and I had a kidney transplant at 30. And I'm 18 years in. I was actually 31 when I had the transplant, and I'm 18 years in this year and feeling great. But through my illness, I learned that lesson. So when I was younger, I didn't understand. I thought the world was happening to me instead of me contributing to what the world was giving me. And I think that is, if you realize that you're the source of everything, you're the source of your happiness and your failures, and nobody's doing it to you. You're not being punished by God in any way, that you actually have the free will and choice to do things. I think that helps people become more happy. I think they realize, oh, I have a say so. Yes, you have a say so in your relationships. You know, my thing with the pandemic is, you know, you probably complained about sitting in traffic. You probably complained about being at work all day. You probably complained about not being able to see your husband or your wife or your kids or your pets or whoever it is. Well, here you are. So if you're still complaining in a pandemic and you're homebound and then you're the problem, right? So you've gotten what you wanted.
Exactly.
The world came to a stop. You have what you want. And if you're still complaining, then I really think you have to look in the mirror about that.
Right. And actually just know exactly what you want to. That reminded me of a story of someone that kept saying, you know, I just need a break. I'm so tired. I'd just like to be able to sit and read books all day. And guess what? She got sick. She was in the hospital for 3 weeks and she got to read books. She had no income coming in. She didn't feel very good, but she had the chance to read books. So if we can fix in our mind clearly what we want, so we can actually attract that into our life and actually take actions towards that, it'll be so much easier than when we're at work complaining that we're at work and when we're at home complaining that we're at home.
Exactly. Well, and like you said, attract things in your life. Like I wasn't introduced to the idea of law of attraction until I was an adult. And if you're unfamiliar with it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, you know, basically that what you feel and think is what you bring into your life. And the feeling is the important part. So you can think all day, you know, I wish I had an 8-figure salary. I wish I had this. I wish I had that. But if in your heart you're thinking, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't, you know, you attract that feeling of lack, the feeling of I can't pay my bills. And basically the universe is giving you what you want. And so the universe is not trying to punish you. The universe is like, well, you said you can't pay your bills and you were emotional about that. So I'm giving you the opportunity not to be able to pay your bills, if that makes sense. Like it's giving you the gift.
Yes.
And so the idea is that you got to, in your heart, think, you know, in the best way to do it is think it's already happened, right? So you think, oh, thank you so much, universe, for all this money to be able to live and feel it and pretend you're there and actually be there. And then that's how it works. And that's why you hear Oprah and everybody talk about, you know, having a gratitude journal and these, because the idea is the more grateful you are to what the universe has given you that you like, the universe will give you more of it. But if you complain, the universe is going to give you more of what you complain about, because the universe is almost like a little puppy. To me, it's like a little puppy. Like I give you what you want. And it can't decipher between I want this and I don't want that. Right. So it just gives you whatever you're thinking about and feeling, even the bad stuff. So when you say that, I mean, I have tried to, that's kind of the motivation is, okay, if I'm the source and I'm the person that can bring these things in my life, then I really got to do the work. And so to answer the original question, how do you do it? Well, that's how you do it, is you decide what you want, like you said, and do the work to make sure you get it. And if that means, you know, when you're overwhelmed, you got to get the overwhelmed feeling out of your mind, because that's all you're going to attract back. Is if you keep complaining about how tired you are, you're going to stay tired. Right. Exactly. And it sounds hippy dippy. It sounds, you know, but there is something to it, I believe.
Yeah, there really is. And, you know, I was thinking as you were speaking that it's really hard to be unhappy when you're thinking about all the things you're grateful for. It's really hard to be unhappy. And I know I've had those days where even doing the grateful part doesn't work, or, you know, you're just in this blah. And so what I found, what's so important is just movement. Go for a walk. I actually have a mini tramp in my bedroom, which sounds crazy, but I've been doing, I had a brain work for years, and it helps your brain jump.
There's one against the wall. I can't believe you said that, because my friends tell me I'm so 80s for having it, but I've got one out of camera view against the wall over there. Same thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's great. If you ever just really get stuck in your mind, if you just jump on that thing, I put some really loud music depending on how I'm feeling. So if I'm angry, I put some angry song on, you know. If I'm happy,
I was about to ask what you put
a happy song on, but either way, I'm just jumping hard on that thing. And by doing that, by the time I get off of it, I'm usually laughing because I'm usually up there jumping or I'm dancing or I'm getting into the music, and I kind of forgot what I was all upset about.
Right. Well, you make a great point, because it is truly physically impossible to feel good and bad at the same time.
Mhm.
So if you realize scientifically, your brain cannot produce both emotions together. So
Mhm.
if you're feeling down, like you said, you think of something good, you put on a funny movie, you jump, you go play, you do something, and you will start feeling better. Sitting in it again is not the way to be. And so once I realized that, again, if you're the source, if you're trying to attract these things, there are biological reasons why you feel bad, right? So you may not have gotten enough sleep, you may not be eating right, you may, and so in my mind, I'm certainly not the health guru, I'm not the exercise guru, I've been terrible at all of those things, but I understand that it is all relative, they all fit together. So if you do want to feel better, you know, and I'm not saying you have to be a certain body shape, but like you said, just movement, just do something that's fun. Like, don't do something you dread. Go, like you said, go for a walk. Like for me, I live in a townhouse where I have to go physically go to my mailbox and take a walk. So that's my motivation. I don't allow myself to be in the car and go put the mail out or pick it up. I have to physically go walk and get the mail. So that's my motivation. And like I said, I've got this trampoline. The same thing is when I've been sitting too long and I start feeling stiff, I just jump on that thing. And that's what kids do. Think about it. Trampoline is what you did when you were a kid. So going back to my son, when he's, feeling bored, he immediately goes and plays. So he wants to play, and that's his natural go-to when he's not feeling right. And again, how did we get out of that as adults, when things get boring, we should be able to play. But somehow we created an environment where we have to be at work for 8 hours a day, sitting in a cubicle. And, I don't know, like it's odd how we created this manufacturing type of schedule. And no wonder, we start getting depressed and feel, overwhelmed and stuff, because it's not natural. It's not natural for us to just sit all day and not go out and play and do something fun and, just be happy. If we're meant to be happy, it's not just kids that should be, because we always say, well, kids should be kids. Well, adults should be kids too. And we got out of that. So I think that all that, and again, watching my son, I realized, man, I don't do what he does. Like, I don't just stop and color. I don't just draw. I don't just, pick up something and start, role playing with these, with these items and creating a whole scenario, so it's a shame that as adults, somehow we've lost that.
Yeah. And just as you're talking about the trampoline tips, a tip for parents, because I worked with kids for many, many years in the therapy center. Get one of those mini tramps and put it in front of the TV. And if your kids say, I want to watch a movie, you can watch a movie, but you can jump on the trampoline while you're watching it. It reboots their brain, it helps them be more calm, believe it or not. And also, they're not just sitting in front of the TV. And of course, if you have more than one, they got to take turns. But either way, you have them moving, even though they're looking at a screen. So obviously, they can't do it when they're doing their homework or whatever. But you can do it with spelling words. You can do it when you're practicing math facts. All sorts of things you can do while you're jumping on a trampoline. Now that I've
done counting, like counting exercises and counting by tens and all this stuff. Like I've had him jump on the trampoline too. And it's almost like, and it works with my son. I'm not saying every parent should do this, but with my son, he likes a challenge or he likes to prove me wrong. So it's almost like, well, you can't jump 50 times on that. I know you can't. And he was like, oh, yes, I can. And, so for him, it works to where, and then he jumps 50 times on it. And then he's like, oh, but watch this. And then he'll jump 100. So, it's slight manipulation on my part. But yes, I have not used it for the television. I haven't even thought of that, but I have used it for counting. So, and he loves it because he finds it fun. Right.
Right. Yeah. Kids find the trampoline fun.
Yeah, so we should, right? We should find the walks fun and and the other thing that I think that the pandemic has done, and a friend of mine said this to me, and I keep it in my mind. She said that it is like a cocoon, that we're the caterpillars that have crawled into a cocoon.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the opportunity to find the things that bring us joy, find the things that we really want to do, like really reflect on our lives. And then we could come out that butterfly. And I've focused, she told me that like in April, and I have just obsessed over that since then, because it's the truth. We are given an opportunity to really look at our lives. And to me, it's like, don't do something don't regret the rest of your life not taking advantage of this pandemic. Instead of being scared of it and worried about it and mad at people for not wearing their mask and all these things, just do what you can do and make sure that you come out better.
Exactly. I love that analogy of the cocoon and the caterpillar and the butterfly.
Right.
And because then we're, and I think that way. And a lot of people are doing that right now. They're finding what they're really passionate about that they weren't doing because they thought they had to stay in this one place. But now it's almost like we're given permission to go ahead, try something new. And you're going to see a lot of butterflies of all different colors coming out.
That's right.
I'm so excited to see that.
Yes. And we have the technology to do it. So, you and I have talked about being mothers. And again, you don't have to be a mother, and men can, for men, it's whatever your life is, technology has allowed you the opportunity to not have to be in an office from 8 to 5 sitting at a cube. Now, for some people, they like that because they get detached from their home or their personal life, and they like that other life, and they like to be around other. So, I mean, you may find, I miss that cube life. I miss being in the office, and I miss having that my one little space. And I think that's great. So there are people who love that experience. And there's going to be others that say, I can't, that it's killing me to do that. So that's why you need to do something else. But again, technology has allowed you to be able to do most any profession, and you can do it virtually. Or you can do it partially, or you can start your own business, or, you shouldn't be afraid. I think there's going to be a lot of incentive in this country for small businesses to pop up, because so many small businesses have failed because of the pandemic, right? So I suspect that if you were somebody who you thought, well, I've never really taken the time to start my own thing, but I have an idea. I really think once our economy recovers from this, I bet the government is really going to help small businesses start up again, because we need them.
Yeah, we do. So I wanted to switch gears and talk about confidence. So again, everybody usually has confidence in their job. So they might look at you and say, oh, well, she's so confident. I could never be that confident in the public eye. But it's your job. I'm an optometrist. So I feel very confident when I'm taking care of patients. That's why other people, they feel really confident in their job. So we all have areas where we feel confident or we have mastery. But in everybody's life, there's places where we don't feel so confident, or we lack self-love or self-esteem. So we can look very professional over here, but inside be feeling not very confident. So let's talk about confidence and how people can have more confidence.
I think that if you were somebody trying to do everything, then you're making a mistake, because I do think that we all have strengths and weaknesses. You talk about confidence in my profession. So honestly, when I had the bug for wanting to be an entertainer, or somebody who, is in media, because entertainer to me seems like actors and things like that, but I guess I'm also an entertainer in what I do. But I was in elementary school, and we did the play The Headless Horseman, which is still my favorite Halloween story to this day because of this. I was a very shy kid, believe it or not. I only spoke to my mother. I didn't speak to anybody. I mean, like preschool, I was in a corner. I was the weird kid in the corner that wouldn't talk to anybody. In kindergarten, I made like 2 friends, and that was it. But I was very shy. And so I really was terrified. I was just kind of shy and intimidated and scared. I was a very sensitive child. So I was just absorbing all of this, and I didn't know what to do with it. And my mother was my best friend. So she, was very sweet and kind to me. And then in elementary school, we did The Headless Horseman. And so I was given the part of the narrator. And probably because I was the kid that was kind of standoffish, they decided to give me a part in which I had to do something all by myself and let the other kids interact with each other. And it's the best thing they could have done. So the way it was set up, we didn't do it for parents at night. It was for the school during the day. And it was a gymnasium that had the stage. Everybody probably had that same type of setup in their gym. And there was a curtain that could be open and closed. And so my job was, when the scenes changed at the very beginning, and then when the scenes changed, the curtain would be closed and I would come out in front of the curtain and explain what was happening to the audience. Now, you would think this would terrify this shy kid, but for some reason, there was something when I did that. And I mean, to this day, I remember the feeling. You talk about a feeling that I so loved being in front of that audience and capturing their attention and being able to, I don't know. And I'm usually not the person who wants to be center of attention in my life. So I'm not that person. I'm still shy in my personal life. I'm the one that does not do all the talking in my relationships or friendships. But for some reason that just struck me. So to get to the point, I think everybody has that feeling about something. There's something in their life where they had that lightness and you just can't stop smiling. And it's just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. Whether that's liking to drive a car fast, whether it's liking to be in front of an audience, whether it's liking to just, draw by yourself or do engineering and put things together, whatever it is, there is something in everybody's childhood that brings that feeling back, even as adults, right? That's your strength. Whatever that is, that's your strength. That's your body telling you this is what you're meant to do in some capacity. The rest of it is you can either be average or below average. So confidence, I think, comes when you focus on what you can do well and accepting and almost, like you said, having humor about or just forgiving the things that you're not good at. And I think that we make the mistake of trying to improve the things we're not good at all the time because we're trying to achieve some kind of perfection that doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. And so, again, it sounds like, and I'm confident in this, but I'm also 50 years old and have experience where I think that the other thing that women need to understand is I cannot tolerate a lot of women who complain about their age and try to be young, because the thing is, guess what? When I was young, I was dumb. I made mistakes. I was not confident at all. And I would not trade my age or my wrinkles or whatever happens to my body in the future to go back to that place. Like there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off in losing these youthful looks to actually being more confident, having more wisdom, being able to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And so I think that you have to learn to delegate the things you're not good at. I think when in this reflection of what you want to do for a living, if that's what or your family life, if that's what you're focused on, whatever it is, think about what you're good at and then delegate what you're not good at and just leave it at that. And I think men have a little bit more headway in this. I think I think men, and I'm generalizing, but the way they think, they can compartmentalize things very well, where we're very big picture. Right. And I think for men, they easily can ask somebody to do something they don't want to do. They for the most part, know what they don't want and they know what they want. And women have to get to that same place. And so whatever that feeling is, like for me, it's that standing in front of a crowd, telling them about the headless horseman. And that's what you focus on. So when it comes to talking to friends, when it comes to doing my job, I'm incredibly confident. When it comes to communicating with my son, I'm incredibly confident. When it comes to housework, I'm the worst. When it comes to cooking, I'm the worst. I don't know how I'm going to feed my son as he grows older, but I will delegate that. I will not try to do it myself. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think for women, they think
same thing.
Yes, I think. Yes, I think, and exactly like you said, you had a nanny. So I think, especially for women, this idea, and it could be from society, it could be from their own mothers. I mean, I fortunately had a mother that was not hard on me or expecting. Like she was a great mom. I mean, but I know some of my friends have mothers that are very demanding and very condescending. And, I mean, it's hard to be in that situation. But just know that you don't have to do everything. You're not meant to do everything. So confidence comes from that inner light, that excitement, and you should be excited about everything you do. And I know that sounds like, no, there's no way. But yes, you should be excited about everything you do. You should. I have a friend who doesn't have children, meaning she has extra money on the side to do other things. And her thing is cars. Her thing is expensive cars. Like that's her passion. And so for her to be able to go to work every day in the car she loves and come home and like it brings her joy. She knows that that is her thing, and she doesn't apologize for it. And she's going to spend all this money on it, and she doesn't care because she knows it brings her happiness. And that's something also to not apologize. Like I think that if you can do the exercise of don't apologize for 24 hours and see how much you try, because women apologize for everything we do, everything we say, everything we buy, and we got to stop doing that, because if you know who you are, you can have confidence in whatever you're doing. And again, like delegate the rest.
Yes.
Is that answer? Because I think it's an ongoing thing. There's no finish line, by the way. There's no finish line of, oh my God, I'm confident for the rest of my life. It is a process every day. But I think that just like, lifting weights to build a muscle, you think positively and focus on what makes you happy and stick with that and don't apologize for it. And that means if you're not happy in your marriage, well, you may have to rethink that. Or if you understand that you're so happy in your marriage, then focus on that, focus on your kids, focus on your career, whatever it is that brings you that joy. That's a sign to me that your body's saying, this is it. Like what you keep asking for, this is what you're asking for. So it's not complicated.
Right. So going back to the aging, so I have found, I feel better the older I get. Like I feel more myself the older I get. And like you said, I feel confident. And I interviewed a monk once for a book I wrote, Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life. And so I had interviewed people from all different walks of life, just like I do now on the podcast.
Right.
And he had talked about, how people say, well, I'm getting old. I'm starting to have this tummy and I'm getting these wrinkles or I'm getting gray hair. And he said, no, you think you're getting less attractive. He said, no, you are getting more attractive. First of all, you are full of wisdom, and that is so attractive. And you know yourself. And at this point, hopefully you're not making unwise decisions and you're not, just like you were saying earlier, being the complaining person. He said, if you're old and you're the one complaining now, he said, you're just going down. But if you're that person who is embracing your aging and embracing, for the women, the crone, if you will, being the wise woman for the younger women, then that is beautiful and so attractive, more attractive. And people who have been married for years, the husbands will tell you that when they look at their wife, they see them the same as when they saw them the day they met them. They don't see the wrinkles. They don't see that they're little chunkier or it's too skinny. They're not seeing all that at all. All they see is this beautiful, amazing being that they married.
And it goes back to what we said about source, being the source of your life. So I think what's always confused me is how men determine what beauty is. I know that women want men to find them attractive, but it's become I don't know what attractive is unless a man tells me. And I don't understand how we got to that point, because first of all, I love men. I'm a lesbian, so I don't marry men or have sex with men, but I love men and I'm raising a man. And, but knowing the men that I know, it's like, I love them, but they're not like the authorities on everything. And they don't want to be the authorities on everything. I mean, I think that for all the pressures that women are given, there's a lot of pressures on men too. And I don't think men want all the responsibility that has been dumped on top of them, including what attraction is and making a woman feel better about themselves. You've got to find yourself attractive. Like if you want to be, if you're somebody that libido and attraction is important, then you have to find yourself attractive. And then when you get to that point where you're like looking in the mirror, like, yeah, you're looking pretty good today. And regardless of what your body looks like, like you said, it's that attitude, like, that weight, it looks good. It's, proportioned well, or it's, a little fluffy, looks good. If you truly find yourself attractive, then everybody's going to find you attractive.
Exactly. Regardless of how you actually look in the mirror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know this, ladies, because there's the guys that end up in the friend zone, and there's the guys that you immediately want to have a date with. And the difference is what? The guy that you immediately want to have a date with is the guy that is confident. And the guy that's in the friend zone is the guy that's a little like, oh, he's a little incompetent. He's just, it's the same with you. To me, there's nothing more unattractive than people who have low self-esteem. I mean, it's negative energy, and people don't want to be around that. And so all of this that we're saying all comes to the same thing. But the other important factor, and I say this to my friends, and it goes back to being a mother again, because I know there's a lot of people who aren't parents, but it's, you're a kid, you can understand this. Don't complain about your body in front of your children. So again, I had a fantastic role model in my mother, because she never complained about her body. She never complained about her wrinkles. She never complained about her age. It was fascinating to her. Now, she and I both were babies in the family. So I'm the youngest and she was the youngest. And I think that has a little bit to do with it, because your siblings are always going to be older than you. But there is something about, like, I have the same attitude she has. So like I said, I'm 50, and I have no problem saying I'm 50, and I'm fascinated by it. And I will be fascinated when I'm 60 and 70 and 80. And I'm fascinated that I have gray hair now. And, I guess I still cover it up, but I'm fascinated that I have gray hair now. And I'm fascinated that, it's not necessarily wrinkles, but my face is changing. And you start getting these little pockets right here. And I'm like, oh, when I'm an old woman, they're going to be really defined. And then I realized that the creases, I'm going to have one of those little frowny creases. So like the other day in the mirror, I actually laughed, because I thought I was trying to predict what is it that's going to be all, wrinkled up when I'm an old woman. First of all, it's a privilege to be an old woman. It's a privilege to grow older, because so many people don't make it this far. But I think that if you look at yourself as and again, getting spiritual, but if you look at yourself as an eternal being that's just fascinated by all these changes in your body, knowing that it doesn't really affect you on the inside, I don't know. Like, I think that you become that attractive older woman by being attracted to yourself. And it's complicated, because you get bombarded with ads for beauty creams. You get bombarded by ads about how to look younger. And so, but I will say, working in media, that these companies think that's what women want to see. So again, it's not that you're the victim and they're telling you need to be beautiful. These companies think that's what you want to hear. And so as women consumers, we have to get to the point where we demand products that make us feel, and skincare is important, and hair care is important. So I get beauty is something that we're attracted to and we want to be, but within reason. Like, it's to enhance what you have, not replace what you have. And so I think you have to understand, you're enhancing what you are contributing. Don't try to plaster yourself up because let me tell you, as a lesbian, too much plastic surgery is a turnoff. If I see filters, like if you are online and you over filter yourself, completely unattractive, like you can see those filters a mile away. Now, come on. I mean, now I have both women and gay men in my circle that I see their posts on Facebook, and I laugh out loud because they're trying to come off as if that's a natural picture, and they have doctored that thing up so much that it looks unnatural. So anyway, just enjoy who you are without makeup, without clothes, be able to stand in the mirror in the bathroom naked, completely nothing on you, and find yourself attractive and do not complain. And if you can get to that point, then I think that you're halfway there to happiness.
And you really can. I know one time someone was talking to me because I've kind of done the weight gain and lose and whatever. I feel like my whole adult life just trying to fight it. Right. And they said to me, well, do you feel uncomfortable when you look in the mirror at yourself? I said, no, I look in the mirror naked and I feel great. I said, it's when I put my clothes on and they don't look the same as other people's.
And that's the thing. See, you know, it's like looking at somebody else. I mean, for me, I've done the same thing. I mean, after my son was born, you know, I will say that I've had consistent weight most of my life. Then after my son was born, I gained a lot of weight, and it was different for me because I had never had that before. But it was less about. I mean, there obviously there was factor into what other people thought. Nobody said anything. No, none of my friends cared. Nobody pointed it out. It was just me seeing it in pictures.
Right.
But you know, I felt a little uncomfortable, like even outside of my clothes. So I think for me, it was less about, okay, I want to be that perfect size. It was more of, I just want to get to a point where I don't feel uncomfortable physically naked. And so I think that once you feel comfortable and you feel good in your body, then I could care less. I mean, like, and again, as a lesbian, I could care less what your body type is. And a lot of guys could care less. That's the other thing. I have a friend who he only wants to date bigger girls. He's a white guy, only wants to date bigger girls. And he's constantly talking about how what a shame it is that other guys make these women feel bad. Like his challenge in dating is having to get them to not feel so bad about themselves. Like he's giving them charity by dating them. And he's like, no, I honestly really swear I only want bigger girls. Like that's his thing. And I know that there are so many other men like him, but they don't say anything either because of peer pressure or because they don't think to say anything. Like, no offense, but guys are quiet a lot of times because they're just not thinking. we put so much credit into what even their silence. And it's like, no, they're probably thinking about the sandwich they're going to make. They're thinking about the Star Wars movie they want to see. It's not, you know, women just seem to, again, I don't understand why men are the authority on women feeling good about themselves. But anyway, so yes, I think that if you feel good, it doesn't matter what other people look like. It absolutely does not matter. So.
Yeah, I think that's true. And so let's say you found that person that loves you and you love them, men, women, whatever, but you found that person. Now you're in this relationship. How do we ask for what we want and what we need?
That's tough because I think a relationship is the very place that you turn into your vulnerabilities, right? Your fears. I mean, at least for me, that my personal relationships have brought up the ugly truth about how I feel about myself, which is being afraid to ask for what I want, you know, because in your profession, if you're confident, I mean, it's time, you know, there's no time, there's no obstacles. I mean, it's just fun. You find joy in your profession, regardless of what you're going through, if you love it. Relationships, you love it in the beginning. And then when you are with each other, I don't think the relationship falters. I think you get into that space of there's no barriers and you have to face the truth. I had somebody tell me once that find somebody whose luggage matches yours, meaning the baggage that you have. If your luggage matches, then you're going to have a good relationship. I think that is committing to somebody that's good for you. And I think that, you know, for me, and I'll be vulnerable, for me, that little shy kid who is afraid of everything had an older sister who was very aggressive and very bossy. And so I found when I first started dating that I was going after very aggressive, very bossy people, because that's in my private life, in my childhood, that bossiness got things done. And for some reason, I perceived that my shyness and my lack of talking did not get things done, but yet the bossiness did. And then I'd get in these relationships that were just toxic because I'd resent the fact that I couldn't get it, you know. So I think that it takes a lot of self-reflection to understand what it is that makes you uncomfortable. And don't get into a relationship in which that is the focus, is your discomfort, right? So I think it's a lot of prep work before you get there. Once you're in the relationship, I think you just have to have the conversation. I mean, I think it's as simple as, I am 50% of this house, and 50% of the energy in this house has to come to me, and 50% goes to you. So my mother and my father were married 51 years before my father passed away. And I had my mother on one of the morning shows I was a part of. And the question was, what is the secret of lasting 51 years?
Mm-hmm.
And she said that if you get with somebody where, she said, in our relationship, my entire energy was on him. Like, I spent all my time making sure to care, nurture, love, take care of him. And he spent all of his time nurturing, thinking about taking care of her. So she said, if you have somebody that you know is thinking, is dedicated to you as much as you're dedicated to them, then you have nothing to worry about. She said, I trusted that he had my back, and he trusted she had his back. And then they had that agreement. So, and back then, I mean, my parents were part of the greatest generation. So back then, I mean, agreements were very important, and a marriage was an agreement, and they committed and agreed that they would take care of each other. And I think now, there's a lot of times where people don't, for their own convenience, they decide not to take care of the other, right? So it could be as extreme as having an affair, or it could be as less extreme as spending money the other one doesn't know about. So if you get in these habits of, well, just today I'm not going to take care of my partner, just today I'm not going to do it, then that's going to snowball into something bad. So to answer your question, I think up front that you have to, and of course, if you've been married a long time and you need to have that conversation, then you have it. But I think that it's a partnership, it is a business partnership, and that sex should not be something that is also negotiated. I don't think that sex should be something that is, there shouldn't be pressure of sex in the relationship either. I think sex should be fun. I think sex should be the glue that holds you together. I think sex should be like your kids playing together. Like, I think it's supposed to be joyful, not an obligation. I think a lot of couples find sex as an obligation, and that's also a problem. But I think that chores around the house, honey, ladies, don't know. Like, and if neither one of you are good at it, going back to our conversation about what you're good at, if he's not good at it, you're not good at it, then hire somebody to do it.
Right.
Like,
hire somebody. That's where I'm at.
Get rid
hire
of it.
somebody.
Get rid of the things that bring you stress. It's waste of time, waste of time. And if you don't have the money to do it, well, then find a way to make the money to do it. I mean, seriously, it's a waste of time. So 50% you, 50% him or her. And that's how it should be established. So that's you get to choose what you're going to do on a vacation. You get to do, the chores around the house, the children, it should be a split. My son and his other mother, she and I are no longer together. Again, we got in a relationship in which our friendship was far stronger than our romantic relationship. We were together nearly a decade, but then we broke up, and we've been great co-parents, and we're still great friends. Like, first year or two was really bad, but we worked on it and dedicated ourselves to be a good couple for our son and give him an example of, it doesn't matter how long it lasts. If it was good quality relationship, it's worth it. And that he came from a great relationship. So we committed to that, and we're stay committed to that. And we even committed to that when we didn't get along and couldn't stand each other because of him. So you have to make the sacrifice to do it. So that means there is a, parenting thing I want to do. And I would love to take 100% credit for, doing something as a parent for him, but I'm 50% of his parents, right? So I let her know my thoughts. She lets me know her thoughts. We constantly are in contact with him. And other parents, and we could have easily hated each other. We could have easily used him as a pawn. We could have easily made this a toxic environment and hurt him for the rest of his life. But we made the decision not to do that. It's that simple. You just make the decision. And if jealousy and anger and resentment, like, again, waste of energy, you work it out, and then you get rid of it and you replace it with something good. It's possible to do that. So in your relationship, just sit down, have a conversation. We need to make an agreement, and we need to stick to it. And if you can't stick to it, then you might not be in the right relationship. It's okay to also dissolve a relationship. Like, I'm not encouraging you to do that, but I will say that I'm living proof that we're better off not being together with our son. Don't stay together just because you have children if it's bad, because the child knows, right? Our son is so happy, and he knows that both of us are his child. I mean, both of us are his parents. So he gets it. Like he has no questions, and he, and she's dating somebody else, and he loves her and she loves him. Like it, and it's a great, and we're all together for his birthday. And so it's just, you can do it. It's just find joy and know what you want. And what I want is a good family environment. And if that means the family is 8 people big, from 2 different houses, then that's what it is, So like you said, know what you want and really want, and then the universe will give it to you. It may not be in the box that you expect it to be in, but if it's what you really want, you're going to love it. And so I'm completely happy with the situation I'm in. And I think the lesson I've learned is the next relationship I'm in is one in which I have as much voice, I get as much done, and I love the person I'm with for who they are and not try to change them or fix them. I think that's important too.
Yeah, I do too. And I love what you said about, just getting along with the 2 parents, because early on I had a divorce, actually when I was pregnant with my 3rd one. And I went to this program called Rainbows, and it was for people who had been through a divorce or they were widowed or whatever. And the number one thing I remembered from that course is they said, never ever put down the other parent, because when you put down the other parent, you're actually putting down the children, because they are made from that parent.
Yes.
And
because
so
they think that, right? They think that the child will think that oh, well, I must have that problem too. Yes, you're exactly right.
So I know early on we had a rough time getting along, me and their dad.
Of course, because you just broke up. Yes.
Yeah, but it got better. And, now my children are in their 20s, and I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and we get together for all the holidays, all the birthdays, even Christmas and Thanksgiving sometimes. And people think, well, that's really odd. But no, it's just one big family. We're just all one big family. Their stepbrother comes and stays with us often. When we had the pandemic starting, he was with us for like 2 months. He didn't want to go home because he's an only child. So he loved being with us. So I think that's just so critical, that no matter how hard it is or how mean the other parent is sometimes, or difficult to deal with, just keep working at it, because
you said, and not to interrupt, but you said something that's so important. I learned this from Katie, who's my baby. I call her my baby mama because we never got married, because we broke up before gay marriage was legal. But she went through a terrible divorce with her parents. And so she was a teenager, and her parents divorced, and they fought and fought and fought. And her mother dragged her to his house one time for a fight. And so when we broke up, I kind of, I was with parents who were together 51 years. So I followed her lead, and she had asked, even though, again, we couldn't stand each other, but she said, this is what I really need for us to do that's different. And that was one of the points she made. She said, we can't complain about each other to him. And we have to be together certain holidays and certain times where he needs to see us together. And so the first year was hard, and we did it, but it became so much easier. And we don't complain, like it, and we still get on each other's nerves because the very things that we couldn't live with, that we still have, but I never complain. And I always brag about her to him. And, if anything goes wrong, or we make a mistake, or she makes a mistake, it's like, well, that's just how her brain works. And this is that, and it's okay. And it's kind of funny, if she forgets something or whatever, because it's never negligible, and making sure he understands, that she loves him. And then my point to my son is love never runs out. So I try to explain to him that love is the most powerful thing in the universe, which I truly believe, and that it never runs out. There's no limit to love. And so in a family, when you have all these people, there's no limit to love. So I did have a problem with her first girlfriend, but I never complained to him about her. Now, that was a tough pill to swallow. If you've been a part of a breakup with a child, and that child has to be around somebody else that is the new girlfriend, that is one of the biggest punches in the gut that you will ever experience. And you have to distract yourself and do something else. Like the first weekend they're away, you better plan a vacation or something, because you'll sit and needle over that. But I still never complained. And then, fortunately, she got with her next girlfriend, which by that point, we had already worked this out. And so our next girlfriend, I got to know as a person, right? So I had no preconceived anger or resentment. And it's just I don't know. And I really, and I never thought I'd be that person. I never thought when I was younger, I would be the person that could handle something like that. And again, I probably brought it into my life because of that. And I'm fine. Like, I'm proud of myself, again, for the wisdom, for the confidence, it doesn't threaten me at all. And so, yes, I mean, you have to think about your child and not your insecurity. It goes back to our conversation about insecurity. You have to work on that confidence. You have to do everything we've talked about. If you do everything we talked about, then regardless of what happens in your relationships, at your job, whatever it is, it won't affect you as badly as it would if you didn't do these things. It really is life-changing if you can understand that you have a choice in being happy.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, we are coming to the end of our time here. I've enjoyed this so much.
I know, I could talk all
day. Hitting the hour mark here. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And it was been fun. And I think we've shared some things that can really help some people.
Absolutely. I hope so. I hope, yes. I think that, we're in such a fractured society, like I said, that we just need to come back together. We all need to sit at the same table, regardless of our political views, of what we look like. Like, we have to understand we're humankind first, and we need to somehow get back together.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I have one last question before we get off.
Yes.
What's your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Understanding that you came into this world with nothing, and look at where you are now. So you literally entered this world as a naked baby, and look at what you've accomplished without any instruction, without any guidance, I obviously think there's, subconscious and indirect guidance, but you've done this on your own. Like, you have adapted and survived and figured it out. And so that's how you think about what you have. Don't think about what you don't have, what you don't look like, all these things you don't, I don't this and I don't that. You have accomplished an incredible amount since you were born, and you're going to leave in the same condition. You're going to leave naked and, old, but, so, think of it as a game. Like, you just do your best, play your best game you can, see how many points you got at the end of your life, and then be able to be happy about it, but you're doing fine. Nothing is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You've already accomplished so much.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. And congratulations on the podcast. And, when this pandemic's over, I do need my eyes checked. So I may have to, the good doctor help me with that.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you. Take care.